Don't throw away your watermelon rind. Use it to make easy watermelon rind jam. My low sugar recipes mean these jams won't last forever in your pantry and will be closer to the texture of applesauce, but they will certainly be delicious. Hello, I'm Catherine. Brian's behind the camera, and we can't agree on which flavor we like better. So today you're getting two recipes, two different flavors of watermelon rind jam. Well, you nailed that, so I guess you liked the applesauce version. And like I said in the intro, these aren't true jams because I'm using less sugar. So I'm not using the typical 1-to-1 sugar to fruit ratio, which helps to preserve jams and make them shelf stable. So mine are a little closer to the texture of applesauce. They will need to be refrigerated, and they're best enjoyed within about a week of making them. If you are better at making jam than I am, then you can absolutely make these more traditionally and use the full amount of sugar. I do think that this video will set you up well with the basics for using watermelon rind though. And I know that a lot of you appreciate sugar-free recipes, so I'm also going to give you tips on how to make these sugar-free. I've also made a few versions with varying degrees of sweetness, so Brian and I can do a little taste test at the end of this video to see which ones we prefer. Let us know in the comments if you've ever used watermelon rind before. I know that a commenter in last week's video mentioned making pickled watermelon rind, which is something I'll have to try. And I have seen some recipes for like a gummy candy made with watermelon rind. So this isn't a brand new concept, but if it's new to you, then here is how to get started. Remove the outer green layer of your watermelon skin. I find that using my potato peeler is the quickest and easiest way to do this. Next, slice the thick white rind away from the sweet flesh of your watermelon. Chop the thick rind as small as you can to decrease how long it takes to cook. Chopping this rind quite small like this helps it to cook in 20 to 25 minutes. If you chop larger pieces, it will take longer to cook though, because this rind is quite thick. The rind itself doesn't have a ton of flavor or sweetness in it. So if you get some of the sweet fruit in these pieces, then that's not a bad thing, but it's not necessary. It will just work with the white parts. I typically buy small or mini watermelons, and I find that they tend to yield about 3 to 5 cups of this watermelon rind. So my measurements for these recipes aren't exact science, and I give you some ranges for how much sugar to use depending on how much rind you have. If you end up buying a large watermelon like I have today, then you can freeze this rind and use it later. Add 3 to 5 cups of chopped watermelon rind to a small pot with the juice of 1 lemon, which is about 3 tablespoons, and 3 to 5 tablespoons of cane sugar depending on how much rind you are using. If you are adding a sturdier fruit like a peeled and cored apple, add it to the watermelon rind now. Bring this mixture to a boil, then reduce the heat to a low boil and cook with the lid on for 20 to 25 minutes until the watermelon rind is translucent and tender. If adding a softer fruit like berries, add them to the cooked watermelon rind and cook for an additional 10 minutes to soften the berries. Here I have used 1.5 cups of sliced frozen strawberries. While that finishes up, I'll let you know that you can make a jam or a fruit sauce with just the watermelon rind. But because the rind doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own and it doesn't have a lot of natural sweetness, I like to add in some other fruits as well. So again, if you're adding a sturdier fruit like apple or pear or peaches, then add them right at the beginning. But if you're using softer fruits like berries, then wait until the watermelon rind is cooked and then add the berries in for an extra 10 minutes or so until they're really soft. Now, if you want to make these sugar-free, then the difference will be, actually, follow me, I'll show you. If you make these sugar-free, then the watermelon rind won't release nearly as much liquid while it cooks because sugar helps to draw out the liquid in fruits. So the difference will be that you'll just have to be more diligent about keeping an eye on this while it cooks and stirring it occasionally to make sure it's not sticking. If it's really sticking, then you could splash in a little bit of water. I haven't found the need to do that. Usually just a stir does the trick. And the other difference is that the flavor will obviously be less sweet. So I do find that these jams benefit from a little bit of extra sweetness, especially if you're adding something like strawberries, which are gonna make them a little tart. So you might find that you wanna add 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup or another less refined liquid sweetener once you've blended the fruit sauce. And Speaking of blending, once all the fruit is soft and the watermelon rind is translucent, remove from the heat and blend right away with an immersion blender, or allow the fruit to cool and add to a stand blender. Blend until smooth. Taste and add any finishing touches you like. To my watermelon rind applesauce, I add half a teaspoon cinnamon. And to my watermelon rind strawberry sauce, I like to add 1 tablespoon chia seeds. Chia seeds and ground flaxseed are really handy for absorbing any excess liquid you might have in these jams. If you've used frozen fruit, maybe you have a bit of extra moisture, they're just a bit runnier than you'd like. So try that. Another option is to put these back onto the stovetop and cook them for another few minutes with the lid off, and that will help to cook off some of that extra water. And I do have instructions in the recipe card on the blog. If you have a lot of liquid, I have some instructions for how to use a starch to help thicken that up. And do you remember how I said you could freeze your watermelon rind and use it later? Well, if you scroll to the notes section in the recipe card, then I have instructions for what to do if you're using frozen watermelon rind. It's helpful to just defrost it first and discard that first bit of liquid. Otherwise, you will run into a scenario where you need to sop some liquid up. Also, I find that it waters down the taste a little bit if you use all that extra water. I kind of said that weird. But these two are looking good, so let's get them into jars. Allow your jams to cool fully, then transfer to a jar with a tight-fitting lid and refrigerate. Enjoy on your favorite breakfast muffins, in your overnight oats, or however else you love.
These look so good. The salad looks so good. You look so good.
You look so good. Oh. Now that we're done complimenting ourselves, which one are you gonna go for first?
I think the apple cinnamon one. I think I lean more the apple cinnamon way, but I'm not sure.
Well, that's what it is on our blog post. When we made these, I liked the strawberry better and you liked the apple better.
I love these boule choux. They're in Catherine's Portuguese cookbook. Go get yourself a copy. These buns do not disappoint. They're super cute.
Yeah, they're like English muffins, but a Portuguese version of an English muffin. So it's a yeast leavened dough that's cooked on a pan on the stovetop, so that's why it gets dark on either side. And they're just like sweeter and fluffier and softer than an English muffin, but the same sort of dealio. They're really sweet.
So good. I mean,
well, you nailed that, so I guess you liked the applesauce version.
I did.
The applesauce is really like...
Tastes like fall.
It tastes like fall because of the cinnamon. It's really like warming.
We've done this before, but I think the strawberry one would be awesome on pancakes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we put them on overnight oats. We're gonna have a lot to eat. So yeah, we've done both overnight oats and the chia pudding. So you can freeze them too. So that's probably what's gonna happen to some of these. Do you wanna just taste the jam and see if you can taste a difference between like the sweetness? Yeah, that one's just sweetened with some maple syrup.
And this one?
And then that one's just the apple version, but just maple syrup. You think it's sweet enough?
I think it's sweet enough, personally.
And then you can tell that there's more sweetness in the other ones.
Yeah.
They taste more like a jam as opposed to like a delicate fruit sauce.
I think it's easy to customize either way. So it's really your preference. But having said all that, I think my favorite still is the apple cinnamon one, and yours is still the strawberry one. I mean, I like both, but there's just something about that apple cinnamon, especially on a boule. It just, I don't know, it tastes...
So cozy.
Yeah, just like what a lovely way to have a tea or a coffee, start your day with a little bit of that.
So you'll have to let us know in the comments if you try both flavors, which one you like better.
And let us know if you try it on a boule.
I think I've made a strawberry rhubarb version. Like I said, you could add peaches. So you can be really creative with this watermelon rind and make it your own. One thing about less sugar, the sauces probably won't last as long the less sugar there is in them. But typically I say 1.5 weeks or so because they're mostly just a really fresh fruit sauce.
How much do these cost?
Well, the great thing is that it being a low-waste recipe, you're not adding that much to the cost than the cost of the watermelon in the first place.
Thrifty.
So I think these cost like between $1.50 to $3 extra, depending on if we use a fresh lemon or not, because a lemon costs us $1. And the strawberries cost a bit more than an apple. So pretty thrifty, low waste recipe. We are going to have a lot of watermelon to eat. So you should check out our watermelon poke bowl, the watermelon tuna steaks. That's something really fun that we like to do with watermelon, other than just eating it, of course. And then I've been working on a watermelon tofu feta salad with some pickled onion and some cucumber and a dressing and some herbs. And that's gonna be next week's video. Tofu feta watermelon salad. It's summer. Let's go. Yeah, just bring on the summer. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, all those things that help our channel to grow. This is so good. This is delicious. Yeah, so yummy.
This is fun.
Do you like having a YouTube channel where we just make food and eat food?
Yeah.